America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and you're watching The Black Athenians, and I come to you every Friday at 4-ish to give you kind of a little bit of political wisdom. I think we're going to learn a lot today because we're going to learn about the middle class. And the middle class is a funny designation, and I'm going to tell you right now what the middle class is. The middle class is the place you reach when you can avoid black people you don't want to be around. That's what middle class is. And so middle class means different things in different parts of the United States. It costs different to avoid. It costs more to avoid black people in New York City than it does in the Atlanta suburbs. But everywhere in these United States, unless there's like a more stigmatized group that you're trying to avoid, pretty much what it means to be middle class.
Exist. Like I was just thinking for a moment, like who?
But there are some places, like there are middle class people in Idaho who want to do something, and who want to avoid somebody. And
but that's just other. They just don't. They're avoiding their own people because they don't have money.
That's
not really the same.
They don't move and send their kids to private school to get away from their cousins. Yeah. So
they just lock them in trouble.
So people are like, what's the middle class, Army? The middle class is the ability to flee black people or only curate the black people that you have in your life. As opposed to poor and working class who just have to deal with the black people who are around. And they don't get to pick and choose. So that's when people say they want to defend middle class America, that's what they're talking about. I know you're saying that doesn't make sense, Army. Yeah, it does. Think a little bit more and we'll talk about it once we get back. Matthew, can you hit the beat?
To the beat, y'all. Yeah. Sound good to me. Never change the ways for the world or the government. If I was the president, then I would state facts. You leave it up to me, I paint the White House black and ain't no future in your front.
Good. All right. So people will tell you that, class distinctions about either how much money you have or where you are in production. Like classically, it's about where you are in production. If you work for somebody, you're working class. If you own things and just make money off of owning things, you're, the ownership class. But in America, the way we've racialized the economy and other places with like hard caste systems, middle class isn't about how much money you make, and it's not about where you are in production. It's about how easily you could flee black people you don't want to talk to. Right? So that when people say like, well, I just want a nice middle class lifestyle, that's what they mean. Also, when people say like, well, America made a white middle class. We made a middle class in the 20th century. You know how they made that middle class? By creating suburbs where they could flee. That's what we grew. When we talk about growing the middle class, we grew the ability to flee America's race problem, which is the black masses. So there is no middle, and this is mostly white people, but even you black middle class people, what you're talking about is your ability to flee other black people.
Shout out to my family, PG County.
In PG County. Yeah. Yeah. So don't get it twisted. It's the new dog whistle, and you heard it here first. In 10 years, people are just going to write about how much I was just right. But you heard it here. It's a new dog whistle politics. It's the politics that people tell to make sure everybody knows that you're not actually serious about getting justice for regular and poor black people. Right? Protecting the middle class and middle class values, that means I'm going to protect your ability to flee poor black people. And actually, I read Elizabeth Warren's The Two-Income Trap. And the second chapter of that is all about this, except she doesn't realize it or she doesn't know. She says, like, look, the problem in America today is a lot of good people are going bankrupt by a lot of good people who did everything right. Good people who did everything right are going bankrupt because what happens is they use both their incomes to move to a suburban mortgage that they can't pay for. And then when someone gets sick or someone gets fired, they end up losing their house or going bankrupt. And they move to that suburban mortgage in order to go for good schools for their kids. So it's driving up these bankruptcies. So we need schemes for people to be able to get good schools for their kids without leaving the city. So we should have like a private voucher system or a public voucher system so people can choose to avoid black people without having to move out.
Yeah, God, it's so inconvenient when you have
it's
to
a
move
whole,
to another county.
It was a whole book on how beleaguered, the most beleaguered class in the United States are white flighters who are bankrupting themselves white flighting. It's an entire book on that. And it's not the worst book, but it's on that.
Well, it's probably the worst book because she doesn't realize that's what she's talking about.
That's what she's talking about.
She doesn't realize.
She's like, well, she has a lot of good things. She's like, look, divorce makes it hard to white flight. Losing a job makes it hard to white flight. And getting sick makes it hard to white flight. So we need to fix our healthcare and labor and employment policies to make it easier for white flighters.
Yeah.
Because they should be able to white flight without bankrupting themselves, or at least get the perks of white flighting without bankrupting themselves. That's the entire book. That really is the book. And unfortunately, that's a lot of America. It'll make sense, and they won't actually see that that's what they're talking about. The opposite of that is like we need programs to eradicate poverty. Or we need programs to make black people whole. Or we need something like a federal job guarantee. We need serious anti-degradation problems. No. What Warren was talking about was we need to make it less punishing to white flight. Because a lot of good people who did everything right were bankrupting themselves, chasing the American dream of white flighting.
Not living around Negroes.
About the American dream of not living around Negroes. Raisin in the Sun is just about an entire... Depending on who you talk to, it's a whole play about how hard it is to not live around black people. And that's hard. We should make it easier for people who want to not live around black people.
Didn't Oprah produce that? Didn't she do a production of that?
Yeah, there's a great review of Raisin in the Sun in Harold Cruz's book, The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. It came out in 1968, the book did. But I think he knew Elaine Hansberry. She's like, look, this author's dad was one of the biggest slumlords in Chicago. She's like the most black bougie person in the history of black bougie person. So she's writing a book about how hard it is for black people in the suburbs.
I mean...
Okay.
Camilla?
Yeah, I was about to say they're all not in the history of black bougie people. We have whole societies like the Jack
Recent
and Jills.
memory.
Yeah, but it's just very interesting. You shouldn't be about protecting the middle class. And in this book, Elizabeth Warren was very clear about she wants to protect the middle class from the predations of the ultra wealthy and the justice claims of the poor and working class.
So my question about this book, Army, is, because it sounds amazingly insightful. Yeah. Is it written from the perspective that she realizes what she
doesn't understand that that's what she's doing. But if you read it, you'll totally know that that's what she's doing.
So what you're saying is she wrote a Hillary book where she told about how she talked to the staff and how they became like family.
She doesn't know that she was a slave owner. What Sin is talking about is in Hillary's book, It Takes a Village. She was talking about, when I moved into the governor's mansion, they had these trustees from the local prisons. And I loved the felons because they were the best. And they would come and clean our house. And at first I felt a little awkward, but it actually made sense.
Kept the budget down.
And so Hillary liked having slaves. But she doesn't know that that's what she was talking about.
And it's not like it's, I was thinking the other day, I made a comment about this somewhere, that Bill Clinton, for the longest time, people made the comment, the first black president. Yeah, because he played the man literally who is responsible for mass incarceration, welfare reform, and the HIV epidemic. Yeah, I'll put it at his feet because he created the perfect environment for it. Mass incarceration. Remember, he was warned by his aides that mass incarceration would in fact lead to this.
In this population.
Yes, in this population.
Because they come out and then...
Yep. And it's happening.
And and that just happened.
Yeah.
There's no the vectors, you can talk to any epidemiologist.
Oh yeah, no, we were having that conversation in one of the groups the other day. Someone was crunching me the numbers. I was like, see, there we go, right there.
It happened exactly like the model predicted it was happening, and nobody gave a crap, and it just happened like that.
Yep. She works in San Francisco.
Went in, she works in San Francisco. Came out, infected.
Yes.
DC.
Yes, all of it.
Came out, infected Atlanta. You went in for a little while, and then came out infected.
Mostly affected New York, and then New Yorkers moved to Atlanta so they could afford to still live here. I'm just saying.
That's like, no lie detected. So it's very important, black people, watch this middle class politics. And, watch some of the black people who have middle class politics. Because it's going to be about not actually addressing, the stain and the legacy of what America's done to black people in the United States. So, Matthew, give me the I want to know that if you have the chart with the median wealth. This one? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So that's very, so it's important to know that middle class cost is not a number. People try to associate with a number. No, it's an ability to flee black people. It's ability to not have anyone you care about spend a lot of time around people on the blue line, not the blue line, the red line. Mm-hmm. I don't have my glasses on. So that's what it's about.
It's about the blue line getting away from us.
It's about the blue line literally in this video getting away from us. Like it's so that's what middle class aspirations look like. Fleeing the red line.
I'm looking.
I mean something in Chicago though. But yeah.
Well, we do have something in Chicago. Yeah. Increased property values around the Obama Center.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's running people out of the community that he doesn't want to hand any money to.
Right. I mean, there's always Reverend Dr. Cosby said it right when he said, think about gentrification. It's kind of like fornication. Someone's getting screwed.
Yes.
Someone's getting screwed.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I've seen it a lot recently. Yeah. Even the neighborhood where we're shooting right now, like at the end of the block.
Yeah, I saw. For the record, I shoot this video in the hood. I shoot this in what used to be.
I don't know if we're going to be able to say that much
longer.
I
just saw a little white lady jogging with a poodle.
Oh! We're done. We're done. We're not going to be.
They'll knock a whole projects down to keep us safe.
Yeah. We're done.
We got probably about 300 people living in that project right there. They'll knock all that down.
Projects, that's bug properties.
Oh, that's bug properties.
That is the slumlord of Athens.
Okay.
Well, projects over there, the nicer ones.
Yeah, but they'll knock all that down to keep this lady with a poodle safe.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I just told you what middle class means. And if you like that definition and you think it's useful because you know I'm right, what you need to do is go to thefunkyacademic.com and kick down $5, $15, or $50 a month because I kind of like to pay people and, keep the lights on, and I do have rent to pay, and I want to keep giving this quality of political education every week, but things cost. So one, I think I just hit 8,000 subscribers. Hit the little bell to make sure you get the notification about subscribing to the show. Also, send this to everyone. I try to make these bite-sized, so instead of your reading group, you can just watch this video and then talk.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, just hit 8,000.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. I found that out today. Thank you. Let's get to 20. Let's just get to 20. So send it all around. Send this video all around. Tweet it, social media.
And we won't even ask for $1,000 to be donated by 20 people. I'm not going after any reverends today.
Yeah, I just.
Did you see that story?
No, what happened?
Oh, so one of the mega churches in Atlanta invited Kanye down.
Okay.
To do one of his
share his wisdom and his Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus to Jesus moment.
Yes. And so when T.I., his wife, and 2 Chainz arrived, they were escorted and ushered right down to the front. The visiting minister said that God just laid on him that 20 people should donate $1,000. And the expression on T.I.'s face is gold. Yeah, like it is the best. Like it is so T.I. Oh no, like he didn't. There's no. Like he twisted his face up. Like, did y'all just move me down here to the front row
on public to hit me
so
up
that y'all could hit me up and he apparently everybody else. He was talking about several other famous people who were in there, but further back. Like they hadn't been escorted to the reserve seats. Yeah, there's the picture. Because Ivy's never seen that picture. See that face T.I. is making? Right there.
Oh, that's a stank face. That's a stank face.
T.I. was not having it.
No.
And it was really interesting.
Going after some of that Ant-Man money.
Like he's like, I just feel like there are 20 people here who can give $1,000. I'm like, if you have 20 people in your audience that can give $1,000 on a whim, you need to be doing more in your community. Like, I need you out doing more.
Well, so I don't know what you guys can give, but I think you should give a little bit to me because, like, we'll give a quality of political education that's, I think, needed in the community because there are a lot of things that are about us that nobody says that are about us, like this middle class. That's about us and the ability to distance yourself from us. That's what middle class means. And be very suspicious about anyone who's championing the middle class as opposed to eradicating poverty or eradicating working class poverty, because what they're championing is the ability to distance themselves from, black people and black problems. And black problems are America's problems. They're just America's problems concentrated in the black community because we never actually addressed the problem.
I mean, we started with one problem and then we decided let me rephrase that. They started with one problem. Yes. They always talk about the country's original sin.
Right.
Like it's the only sin. They forget all those years of terrorism afterwards. They because having to explain to people that reparations represents more than slavery.
Yeah, no, it's terrorism. I mean, I still don't find too many black people over 55 who aren't scared of white people.
I mean,
because white people are terrifying.
Yeah. No, I mean.
And so another reason you should give to the show is because who knows if I can get a job after this, but I do it for the people.
I think we all know you're not getting a job.
We know how this is. All right, let's be honest. I was about to say I'll be lucky if I could teach high school, but no. This is going to be
They're certainly not going to let you in a high school.
I was about to say it's going to be a very interesting job search process for me.
They might let you coach soccer.
Don't talk to anybody.
Or assistant coach.
Don't want to give the illusion of authority.
Yeah.
Hey, Matthew, anything I say makes sense to you? What's up?
Yeah, I also think there's another element too about the middle class about how it's an avoidance of risk as well. I know a lot of people want to be middle class because they want to avoid the politics of actually making black people whole. They just want to move around and consume things without actually doing anything at all.
The avoidance. All right, so middle class is also a form of risk avoidance, and I should do an entire show on risk avoidance because we talk a lot about the distribution of labor, but we do not talk about the distribution of risk. And that is very important insofar as we made national policy out of concentrating risk into black communities. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to open up a business in black communities. There's a lot of reasons, right? So like, let's say you want to open up a convenience store in a black community. You need to hire more security because people are poor, right? So you need to hire more security. Or a bank, right? You need to hire more security. You're going to have to deal with lots of small deposits. Like if you do it in a white community, you'll get like one $100,000 deposit. If you do it in a black community, you'll get like $550 deposits, and then people are always coming in to get like 25 back, and then coming in and counting out change, put in 15, and then overdrafts. So we concentrated risk and business risk into black communities by failing to make black communities whole. So if you want to avoid all that and call that your middle class status, that means you're avoiding black communities. Or we can just make black communities whole, which is what I want to do. But the two aren't the same things. So people who are middle class are actually black people. Those are your race and your class enemies. Even if you're the black middle class, because even if you're the black middle class, you have cousins who aren't. Like
most of them.
Yeah. Black middle class. You can't call everybody in your family.
There are approximately. I mean, once again, my family is all in PG County.
Right.
There's still only about 6 of them you can borrow more than $20 from.
Right, exactly, right. And
they want it back.
And more than they want it back.
Like there's only one of them that is like just keep it. No, they want that 20 back. They want more than 20 back.
Yeah, and there are more than 6 of them who could use 200.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. So like even if you're the black middle class, you can't go to family reunions and run, like you're not running into everybody. Like even all those people who...
I'm just thinking about how many people have cars.
Well, it's just like, this is why these fraternities and sororities and groups are kind of weird, because they'll take like the middle class person of each one of these families and put them together and show a picture of the black middle class. But then that delta goes back to her people. And if she goes back to her people who actually share her name, like, half of them aren't going to be doing very well. Even if all the Deltas, I don't even know if all the Deltas are doing very well. You don't want to go to a Delta function and talk about everyone bringing out their student loans. Because Spelman's not cheap. And a lot of those Deltas still are paying.
Okay. See, now we have just directly only called out my family. Like that.
Deltas who are still paying.
Deltas all still paying.
All still paying.
I made the mistake of commenting. The judge who gave that very lenient and understanding thing. A Delta.
Yeah, she's a Delta. I don't know. Maybe she paid back her loans, but there are a lot of Deltas.
I'm sure she did.
There are a lot of AKAs, there are a lot of A5s, a lot of Kappas, Canes and all, who are still paying. Their Kappa's on credit.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Kappa's on credit. All right. So with that, I hope this has been a fruitful discussion. Send it around to your friends. Hit me up. Sign up. Tell other people to sign up. Subscribe. Let's get these numbers up. All right. Take care.